The health minister is back on the stand to testify in the Frank Smith trial.
Opposition leader Philip Davis says there's only one interpretation for how many Bahamians should be working on that point project. I got that story for you straight ahead.
The CPSA has filed a trade dispute. More on that straight ahead.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Bombshell revelations coming out of the Frank Smith extortion and bribery trial today after Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands admitted on the stand that the prosecution's star witness, Barbara Hanna, contributed to his campaign in late 2016 and that her son worked on 2 of his election campaigns. Sands also sought to clarify why he approved a $1.8 million contract to Hanna months after Smith was charged. Jasmine Brown has been following the matter and has these details.
The health minister was back on the stand today where he was questioned by lead prosecutor Edward Jenkins QC about his relationship with Hanna and his approval of that $1.8 million contract to Hanna's company, Magic Touch Cleaning Company. Jenkins asked Sands about the first time he came into contact with Hanna. Sands, who is also the member of Parliament for Elizabeth, testified that he spoke with Hanna over the phone in November 2016 after she contributed $300 to his election campaign. He said it was customary to call campaign donors and give them his personal cell phone number. He also testified that Hanna's son worked on 2 of his election campaigns, first as a paid worker in 2012 and then as a volunteer in 2017. Dr. Sands also testified that since that call, he had been called on many occasions prior to the May 2017 election by Hanna, who informed him that she had been awarded a contract with the PHA and was being required to make $5,000 payments to Smith. Sands, who was not minister at the time, said Hanna asked him if there was anything he could do. He said he told her to speak with then PLP minister Dr. Perry Gomez. Sands then testified that after Hanna said he could not reach Gomez, he told her to go to the police. However, he says Hanna told him she was afraid she would be harmed because she was dealing with very powerful people. After he became health minister following the election, he said Hanna still complained she was paying money to Smith. Sands says he connected Hanna with National Security Minister Marvin Dames by sharing contacts on WhatsApp as a way to ensure his safety. Sands says over the next several months, he would get many calls from Hanna, sometimes 14 calls a day, and that he first met Hanna in person on June 20th, 2017 at the Ministry of Health. He said during that meeting, Hanna told him she was applying for the cleaning contract, and he responded by advising her to let her work speak for itself and that the process would be fair. Jenkins also questioned Sands about the $1.8 million cleaning contract that Sands approved. Sands said he became aware that the Tenders Committee had completed its report and that cleanliness at the hospital had become critical as the company that was cleaning at the time was underperforming. Jenkins asked Sands if he had anything to do with the Tender Analysis Committee. Sands responded no. In previous testimony, it was revealed that the committee recommended Hanna's company be selected for the cleaning contract. It was also revealed Sands approved the contract without the board considering the committee's report. When questioned by Jenkins about that, Sands testified that the intention was to place the report before the board, but that it was realized that the approval was up to the minister because the contract was over $250,000. He also said he approved the contract after they had sought the advice of the AG's office. Sands said despite appearances, he thought Hanna had won the bid fairly. When asked if he was aware that the board had not considered the Tenders Committee report and made its recommendations as its PHA policy, Sands said he had only been made aware of that fact in December 2017 by current board chairman Julian Roll. Before court adjourned, lead defense attorney Katie Knight began his cross-examination. Knight asked Sands if he told Hanna to submit a tender for the contract. Sands replied no. Knight then asked Sands if that was the truth, and Sands said yes. Knight then pointed out to Sands his written statement that indicated he told Hanna to apply and that the process would be fair. Sands responded by saying he thought Hanna had already applied at that point. Now the case is set to resume on Saturday for what officials are terming an extraordinary sitting. However, all parties involved insist extra steps need to be taken. Reporting for the Magistrates Court on South Street for Our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Police have confirmed they are investigating an incident that occurred at a public school where a student was allegedly beaten by a member of the school's administration. The Ministry of Education has also commenced an investigation after its attention was drawn to an image circulating on social media of what appears to be a child's exposed buttocks. According to a statement, the ministry will not tolerate in any circumstance the maltreatment, abuse, or neglect of any child or person under its jurisdiction whatsoever. The statement continues, to the extent that the ministry becomes aware that any such illegal, unethical, or unacceptable behavior has been or is being committed, it will be addressed with the swiftest repudiation and sanction. Education Minister Jeffrey Lloyd told Our News the matter is on his desk, but he is reserving comment until after an investigation is complete. Numerous calls were made to the school, however, each time we were told that the principal was in a meeting. Rights Bahamas said in a statement that the act of corporal punishment, especially as it relates to children in a public school setting, is considered a violation of Article 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Additionally, the group claims that child protection laws have been breached. In other news, 3 American men were charged in court today for failing to disclose $51,000 at Lynden Pindling International Airport. However, in pleading guilty, one of the men said they didn't know any better. 43-year-old Sid Shaw in the white T-shirt of Chicago, Illinois, says it was an honest mistake he made when he failed to declare over $50,000 he was caught with at Lynden Pindling International Airport. He and his 46-year-old brother Umang Shaw of Texas in the gray T-shirt and 36-year-old Josu Gill of Chicago were all arrested on Tuesday for failure to disclose the money and pleaded guilty before Magistrate Subasolo Swain Thursday morning. However, in pleading guilty, Shaw explained that they were staying at the Bahama Resort, where he won $47,000 in the casino. He said when he got to the airport he had 2 bags and didn't think it was safe to put all that money in any of the bags. So he kept $17,000 on him, gave $20,000 to his brother to take for him, and gave $11,000 to their friend Umang. Shaw reportedly owed Umang the money. He said in going to the airport he thought he only had to declare what was in his pocket, which was $17,000. However, after a search by U.S. Customs and Border Control, it was discovered that his brother and friend had the remainder of the money, which was not declared. Gill, his friend, said it was embarrassing for him because he was already in his seat on the plane when he was asked to leave and was arrested. The trio did not have an attorney, but given the law, Magistrate Swain said unfortunately she had to impose a sentence. However, she told them to consider the situation a learning experience. The men were then each fined $1,000 and all the money was confiscated. Sid then asked the magistrate when was their deadline to pay the fine. She responded, "If you want to go to the United States today, you'd pay today." In leaving the court relieved, he said, "Thank you, ma'am. Have a great day." In other news, opposition leader Philip Davis is insisting that the Point Project's workforce should be 70% Bahamian at all times. Jared Hicks tells us this comes as the Labor Minister says the government has a different view on the matter.
Earlier this week, Labor Minister Dion Folks told reporters outside of Cabinet that there were 2 interpretations for the heads of agreement that was signed by the previous administration. Folks says the Minister's administration has chosen to interpret the HOA clause to mean that the project should employ 70% Bahamians over the lifespan of the project as opposed to on a day-to-day basis. The Labour Minister added that government was only following in the footsteps of the previous administration, a point Davis disagreed with.
That's rubbish. That's rubbish. He cannot be adhering to the agreement we left in place. If he is accepting an interpretation of the agreement to say that the 70% doesn't really mean 70% every day of the contract. If you look at the provisions, it said the labor force for the project is to be 70%. That's what it says.
Folks says there has been an increase in Bahamian labor at the downtown project, and by next summer, the labor force numbers should reflect a 70% representation of Bahamian workers. Davis, though, was adamant that the figure should be 70% today, and there is no ambiguity.
There's no loophole. There's no loophole, and it does not admit to 2 interpretations. The agreement does not admit to 2 interpretations. I say this, and even assuming, but not conceding, that the agreement does admit to 2 interpretations, then as government, you adopt the interpretation that favors the Bahamian people, not the developer.
Concerns over the government's ability to ensure that 70% of workers on the project were Bahamian began under the previous administration. The heads of agreement revealed that the parties could alter the ratio of Bahamians working on the project if it meant a faster completion date. When asked whether the former administration fulfilled its obligations with reference to the heads of agreement, Davis says they did their part.
It was an ongoing process. When we left office, we had done what we were supposed to be done at that time of the process. Right? It is now for this government to pick up the process from where we left it and continue and fulfill the obligations for which, as the process progresses, they are required to fulfill.
The Bahamian Contractors Association has expressed concern over the labor force ratio at the point. BCA President Leonard Sands told reporters on Wednesday that only 40% of the workers are Bahamian. Folks, on the other hand, says by the time the project is completed, 85% of the workforce will be Bahamian. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jared Higgs.
All right, thanks, Jared. Well, former Chief Justice Stephen Isaacs lying in state today in the main Supreme Court building on Bank Lane. Dignitaries, including Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquist, Attorney General Carl Bethel, former Prime Minister Hubert Ingram, and Court of Appeal President Sir Hartman Longley viewed Isaacs' body in the company of Acting Chief Justice Vera Watkins. Members of the public were invited to view the body in the afternoon. Isaacs passed away on August 24th in Doctors Hospital. His death came just 2 weeks after he was appointed to the post of Chief Justice. His funeral is scheduled for Friday morning at Christ Church Cathedral. Well, no health insurance, no pension, and no change in remuneration are just some of the outstanding issues that prompted the Consultant Physician Staff Association to file a trade dispute today. During a news conference held at the House of Labor this morning, the group also threatened to take a strike poll. With more on this, here's Jillian Gray.
After 3 years of negotiations, the Consultant Physician Staff Association say they are now at an impasse with PHA, and they are fed up with the substandard working conditions.
We do not wish to issue any threat to our Bahamian citizens about their health care. And I'm sure that in this group we will work out exactly how health care will be delivered. But we are standing united, and we are prepared to do whatever it takes to bring an amicable resolution. We're not saying you have to meet all of our demands, but meet us halfway.
Members of the Nurses Union and Doctors Union were present at the press conference to show their support for the CPSA. Monroe said they have met with officials from the Public Hospitals Authority and the Minister of Health on numerous occasions, but to no avail. For that reason, a trade dispute was filed today, and Monroe says a strike vote will follow. The CPSA president said they are giving the government 5 days to respond.
If you go to the emergency room, that is a very chaotic place most of the time. You have 30, 40 persons lying on trolleys. You can hardly pass through there. You sit for hours waiting for service. In terms of the medical and surgical wards, those places are disasters. These deficits, as I mentioned, have gone on for more than 10 years.
The CPSA, which represents medical specialists, said it understands that efforts are underway to improve working conditions. However, CAT scan, ultrasound, and laboratory services have been inadequate for far too long. Additionally, CPSA President Lockley Monroe said the group is working with no health insurance and unacceptable compensation packages.
We have not gotten any change in our remuneration or benefit package. We have no health insurance. We have no pension fund. There has not been one salary increase for more than 10 years. Myself, in particular, I have not gotten a salary increase for I don't know how long.
CPSA members warned they will do whatever is necessary to ensure their concerns are addressed. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
Still to come on Our News, the opposition leader hits back at the Works Minister over skyrocketing stadium costs. Plus, meet the contestants of the upcoming Miss Bahamas Universe pageant. Stay tuned.